Hi, I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. I'm with the Successful People Academy, and I'm your guide today as we look at how behavioral DNA assessments enhance team performance. So, if you are a member of a team, I suggest that you spend these few minutes, we're not keeping you long, spend these few minutes with me to look at just three game changing insights that I will share in this live cast. Thank you for joining me. Please set aside the distractions for a few minutes, take some notes. This will make a difference to your time in your team. All right. So let's look at what it is that we want to do in this important live cast. We want to look at the context. Why? Why is it relevant even for me to be running a live cast? Wanting to take some of your time to discuss this issue. We will see. And then we want to look at some of the reasons, the behavioral challenges that are a part of virtually all teams. Then we want to look specifically now at how behavioral assessments can impact three key pillars of team dynamics. One, the composition of the team. We want to look at how it impacts dynamics, the culture, etc. And then we also want to look at the alignment of the individuals in the team and the team itself with the responsibilities that they are charged to perform. And then we want to look at the second pillar, which is communication. How can behavioral assessment impact communication? And we know that communication is a major challenge in every organization. Then we want to look at the leadership implications of the use of behavioral assessments. We wanted us to let you know that this is a live chat. We can't speak, but you can in fact type in the question and answer. There's a chat feature, and I will take care to look from time to time in the chat if you have a question or a comment. So let's go. What's the context? Imagine if you were working in a team in which the members speak a different language. All of them speak different languages, and there's obviously confusion and perplexity as to what is going on because nobody understands the others. What would communication be like, and what would be its impact on productivity and performance? So that slide sounds like an outline question, but in truth and in fact, miscommunication is taking place right now in many teams. Hopefully not yours, but we have people, as I like to say, speaking Swahili to someone who only speaks Greek or Chinese. That's happening right now in many organizations. And so there is conflict, there's misunderstanding, and of course, that impacts the whole dynamics of the team. So the question that I would ask is, would you would you agree that many issues that arise in teams can be traced back to communication challenges? Is that something that we can agree on? That communication challenges could be at the core of many of the issues that arise in our teams. And so we want to look at another issue is that we can agree, hopefully, that people process information. We all process information, actions, and situations differently using our own unique behavioral, I call it the behavioral algorithm. People now better understand algorithms and so on. So the whole, what are the processing system? How do we process information coming in? And we all process information in different ways. And That is where the challenge is, because the same information is put on the table, but many of us see it from a different perspective, understand it differently. I speak to John in this way, make the same statement with the same body language, hopefully, and it goes across well. I do it with Mary or with Tom, and it doesn't go across so well. And so that is the challenge. What if we could find a mechanism then to better understand the dynamics, the algorithm, that processing system that individuals use to process incoming information? Would that not facilitate improved communication, interpersonal relationships, team dynamics, performance, productivity? Who wouldn't that be a boost to performance in our teams and life in our teams? And more fun, more engagement, less conflict. Interesting. So that's where we want to go. But what are some of the challenges that the fact that we behave differently, that we process information differently, what kinds of challenges does that present to our team? What kinds of impact will these significant differences in our philosophy, in our worldview, in our behavioral styles have on life in a team? Well, we just talked about it, the interpersonal communication and also interpersonal relationships. So the whole team dynamics, how the team functions, how it sees itself, how connected we are, what kind of team spirit we are, what kind of culture. All of that is impacted by our different perspectives, our different approaches to navigating through life. Then there are the vexed issues of giving and receiving instructions. I can't give instructions in the same way to all of my team members. I have a challenge giving feedback to some of my team members. I have to be careful. What about change? Some of our team members are not as ready for change as others who want to lead the change, and we have to restrain. And then the whole question of resilience. When an issue comes up, some team members are throwing up their hands and, oh, this is a crisis. Some are doubling down and saying, let's get this sorted out. What about the future readiness? Are there visionaries in the team? Or are there those who are saying, let's double down on what it is that we do and do it well? All those things create challenges in our teams. Then role fit. Are we aligned to our tasks? Yeah, those are questions that we have to ask. Are we in a situation where there are square pegs in round holes? That's a question happens. And then, of course, the learning and development. Um, how do we go about training? Different people get information in other ways, different ways. How do we then coach a group? Do we have to set up one-on-one for everybody so that we can get through to them? All of those challenges are there. And then how do we lead them? How does a leader communicate effectively and get things done with different persons who have different perspectives? And of course, all of this impacts the whole question of engagement, talent retention, and so on. All right, so let's go forward. So let us look at the first way in which behavioral assessments can positively impact and improve performance in teams. So many of us don't have any control really over the composition of our teams. And that's it. Sometimes the team, just sort of morphs together. It's not a structured thing like we have an opportunity with project teams to select who we want. In some instances, unfortunately, we are just thought of together. And because we have to work on the same things and so on, we're called a team. However, there's little doubt that our different personalities, our different perspectives can bear significant impact on the dynamics of the team. Some of the stuff that we talked about a minute or two ago. So, because let us look at it. Even one person who is out of step with the others can, in fact, impact the mood and the whole spirit of the team. Yes? Unfortunately, we just have to keep it real. Toxicity can be introduced in the team by one individual. That's a fact. And so this is compounded, by the way, if the individual happens to be in a leadership role and exerts a high level of influence. So the level of toxicity can be spread and have greater impact. And so the practice really of throwing people together without considering their behavioral preferences is fraught with danger and is, to my mind, a source of some of the challenges we have with low levels of engagement, high levels of conflict, underperformance, high staff turnover. This is relevant because when we're talking about hiring new individuals, we should consider the team in which we are going to place them and the potential impact on the dynamics of that team. So yes, we go through, the person has all of these competencies, maybe even do a behavioral assessment, but let us also look at the team and the potential impact on the team. Yeah. Okay, so that's one way. So in my work with teams, here is a extended disc team up. This is the extended disc diamond, and individuals, as you can see, are placed on the diamond. And when I put up this, what we call a name up, I can stand at the back of the room and watch as individuals. Self-diagnose the team. So, for example, we have a Gary down here and we have a Sincere up here. When they see them up, they quickly understand, that is why we have so many challenges understanding each other, seeing things from the same perspective. No, I understand. So that happens because the map actually speaks to how we process information. I like to say that we are given different toolkits in order to navigate through life. So these bags of tools that we have, the extended disc diamond, for each quadrant, there are 40 unique bags of tools, bags of behaviors that I specifically identified. So Gary's bag of tools would be his preference, and Sincere's bag of tools will be her preference. And they lie in diagonally different zones. So a Sincere would be compliance wanted, wants structure, wants system, wants a lot more plans, wants a lot more control over what takes place. Whereas Gary wants more freedom, more variety, more opportunities to create, as against following policies and procedure to the letter. Those kinds of things are important. So once we put up the map, people understand immediately that that's why some of the communication challenges. But there is also a serious level of questioning as to, if this is where Gary is, why is Gary tasked with proofreading the weekly newsletter? Wouldn't Sincere, who has an eye for more detail and would be more careful, wouldn't she be better suited? Now, we're not putting people in boxes to say that Gary can't, or and that sincere should. All we are saying is that those are questions that could be asked as to what is the best fit. How would people be more comfortable, be most comfortable performing certain roles? And where latitude is available, then that should be taken into consideration. So this is one important area. So let us talk a little bit more also about the team composition. So if we look at the whole question of alignment now from another perspective, how well is the team aligned to the responsibilities that they have to discharge? So, as we are saying now, when we look at Gary, who is likely to be a contact seeking, want to connect with people, wants to be creative, want to be innovative, is Gary tied down like I was when I just left school? I was tasked with going through ledgers, large ledgers. And my job was to sit with a calculator and double check, verify that the additions are correct. In the, I don't know how many months I was in that role, maybe 3, 4 months, etc. I never found one error. These are people, accountants, who went and prepared these big ledgers, and I was supposed to verify. That was my job. Suppose Gary was trapped in a role like that. How long would he be able to survive? And wouldn't that be crippling his spirit and his desire to really add value? And what about the team as a whole? If we look at the team to the left, if you understand where the D and the I, that's the D is the dominance, driven, decisive, change oriented. The I would be for influence, inducement, as you would call it. Again, the creativity, wanting things to happen in a way that's enjoyable. And then the S is your steadiness, your supportiveness, the team, holding the team together, making sure that things are done correctly, and then the C is your conscientiousness, system, structure, etc. So the left side, the C and the S, which is heavily predominant in the map that we're looking at, the team that we're looking at. What would you think if this was a map of the executive team of your new company that wanted to go out and challenge TikTok and Instagram? Would you be very confident? I'm not saying they can't. Remember, these maps do not speak to can do or can't do. It just speaks to the amount of energy and the amount of focus that individuals would have to put in place when they are in roles that do not come naturally to them. So as a coach, I would want to look at this team and to say, okay, this is the team you have. I would want to coach them in things like change management, in things like resilience, innovation, creativity, how to disrupt, basically, and how to defend yourself against disruptive elements. That's basically because the left side, the C and the S, would be more focused on structure plans, making sure that things are done efficiently, quality control, keeping clients happy, etc. All of that. But some of that breakthrough thinking, that visionary thought, that risk, the non-risk aversion approaches, that would be your right side. And this team is not heavily laden in that area. That's the kind of thing that we can talk about when we have the data, when we have the objective analyses before us. All right. So that's your team analysis and your team coaching, if you will, in terms of the composition. So one of my assignments, let me give a practical example. Years ago, I was engaged by a financial institution who wanted us to work with the bank managers. The challenge was that for a long time, the regulatory authorities had imposed all sorts of conditions that made it challenging for banks to extend new loans. You basically had to have the cash collateral before you could get a loan. And so, what bank managers did at that time was to make sure that they avoid, bad debts and move on to other aspects of the business. Then the restrictions were lifted. And now the bank managers were in a very competitive environment. All the institutions now, saw the opportunity to have get new revenue. And so they were aggressively going after clients. It means now that you would have to go on a farm, for example, and risk stepping in things that you didn't want to step into. And so that is our task, to find out um, how these managers could actually transition from cloaked in their office doing, basically administrative things to actively going out. And some of the managers, especially those in the blue zone, the C zone, didn't make it. They just thought that, that's selling and that's not my bag. So again, that's critical for us to understand behavioral styles and to look at the operating environment to see what it is that we need to do in order to achieve success. So that goes then to hiring, because the case study that I mentioned with the bank managers points out how important it is to have a role fit, that if then the financial institution was hiring a manager, they would have to hire a different perspective, a different kind of manager, someone who would be more oriented to sales as against someone who was more administrative. So the question then is, would you like to be forced to use your left hand if you're a right-handed person all day at work? Unfortunately, many persons are suffering that fate behaviorally, where they are forced to behave in ways that are not comfortable for them. You know, an example I use, and it's a practical example, is someone, for example, that we would say who has a high preference for use of I-style behavior, wants to engage with people, wants to be a variety of activities. Consider that individual cast in the role of being at the end of the line. When you look at bottling companies, like in a rum plant, there is a huge magnifying glass at the end of the line. And the individual sits there and watches the bottles go by to see if, just by some chance, any impurities are left. So he would have to sit there for hours just watching bottles go by. Think of that. That is what we're saying. We need to be able to look at the individuals and to see how they will be fit, how well they will be aligned to the tasks that you're giving them. The key would be to get the right people in the right roles and in an environment that enables them and providing them with the right style of leadership. So this map that we see here is an extract from a role fit analysis from extended disk. And we see that red or magenta zone, that's the ideal. It's a template that we would say. So if we could create somebody to do this job, this is how the person would behave. These are the behaviors that they would demonstrate. And you could see the match. The black circles or squares represent where the individual is, and the red would be the ideal. So the further to the right is what comes naturally. They don't have a problem. The further to the left is what's more challenging, takes more energy. So we can determine then if this individual is on board, what sort of developmental work you would need to have with them in order to get them to display the behaviors that you want them to display. If it is a screening process, then you need to look at which areas are mission critical and to then decide what you want to do in terms of whether they can come on board or not. And then the second area, let's move the process forward here, in which discerning communication can help, would be the communication issue. Every single employee satisfaction survey comes up with communication as a challenge. Yes. So this is something that we have to look at. Let me go back there. Why is it that communication is such a big issue? It is because people are speaking different languages behaviorally. And so if we were to be able to understand them better, if we had a primer in understanding behaviors and being able to identify behaviors and to respond appropriately to behaviors, we would have a deeper appreciation for our colleagues, and we would have less conflict, and we would be able to be far more effective and productive. So that's basically one of the things that we could do, is to create, is to have, it's very quick and easy, economical, do the assessments for the team, get the team maps done, get the individuals to better understand themselves, and then we can see the dramatic change that this will have in team dynamics. And then the other one, of course, is leadership. Honestly, I feel I have a heartfelt empathy, sympathy for team leaders, especially new ones, people who are just moving into the role, who are tasked with actually giving instruction, providing leadership, giving feedback to a diverse team. And no map, there's no guide. They just have to know, I say this to Trevor, give him instructions in this way, it works. I say this to Tom, it doesn't work. Well, I need to adjust. And over time, hopefully, I get to understand. But in the interim, there's a loss of productivity, maybe relationships that are damaged for an extended period, when it is so easy to simply go get the assessment done. Everybody has clarity as to where others fall on the extended this diamond. They know then how to communicate. They know what to bypass, because this is just the person's behavioral style. Those are some of the things that we are saying, why not? Why not? Why go through the hassle of learning? I'm doing this now. Oh, it doesn't work. All right, let me try this. When in truth and in fact, in minutes literally of investment for each person, 7 to 10 minutes, they do the behavioral assessment online. We get the maps, we go. And in a morning, simply in a morning session, you could actually change the whole behavioral landscape of the organization. Put up the maps, explain the framework, the discerning communication model that we use. We explain it to people so they understand that this person might raise their voice, shout, etc. They don't really mean any more harm. That's just a way of communicating. So that's what the suggestion would be, that no team leader should be tasked to lead a team without having their behavioral map. It is really unfair, and the difference to performance and productivity will be a sea change, just simply by understanding that this is who Trevor is in terms of his behavioral preference. Not that we're going to say to you can't move, you can't do this, you can't be flexible, but at least we understand at the core what the individual would prefer in terms of their interaction, how they perceive things, how they the mindset that they have with respect to navigating through life. And that then provides a platform for communication. We also then suggest a universal language of behaviors where we speak discerning communication. That's basically the tool that we use. So that's the idea. So the bottom line then is that information from behavioral DNA assessments are, it directly impacts so many areas. It impacts communication, sure. It impacts team dynamics. It impacts role fit. It impacts giving and receiving instructions and feedback. And so issues related to the alignment of teams and their members are also clarified. So those factors go to the core of performance. And so we are suggesting that teams should incorporate access to behavioral DNA assessments for growth and development and for enhancement of their performance. It should be a no-brainer. So we're suggesting then, let's have a conversation about your team, and you can contact me at info@successwithpeople.org. And so info@successwithpeople.org, or you can send me a link. You can just click on this meeting link. It's https meetings.hubspot.com/Trevor-Smith4. That takes you right into my calendar. Set up a meeting, you get the Zoom link, and we can converse. No risks, no risk. Like suggesting, take some action. Yeah, we apply a unique approach to developing high-performing teams and their leaders. And so, yeah, it's all based on laser focused behavioral DNA diagnostics. We believe in this science. We believe in data. We believe in an evidence-based approach. And so we actually use the behavioral assessments to remove blind spots, identify limiting factors, and help people to function more effectively from their behavioral perspective. So let's talk. Send me an email at info@successwithpeople.org, and let's see how we can accelerate growth in your team. Let me just check the chat if there are some comments. All right. So, okay, there's a love sign here, which seemed to be good. So, Colin. All right. I think that was earlier in terms of how we select and how we have people come in the team. But thanks, Colin. And I'm getting to it a little late, so I'm not exactly sure the context. If you want to identify more closely the context, Colin, you have time. You can put it in the chat. But I'm suggesting that we have the conversation. There's no cost. Just send me the email, set up a time, and we can just discuss how we go about it. Is this different? Is this the same? What kinds of results can you expect? What kind of investment can you expect? And we can move the process from there. I want to thank you again for your time. We respect it and value it. And we strive really to present information that's different, information that's helpful. And so we really appreciate your spending time with us in our live cast on a Friday. Thank you, and all the best.